That's what's happening. Christy Kemper, QFM 96.
I was talking about this earlier this morning. Saw something on the news last night that made me think of a scene from the movie Jumanji, and it was an escaped monkey.
Oh, that took on that cop car.
Yeah.
The trash car. So often these exotic pets don't end up well in the hands of common people. And here to tell us about it and his film, we have director Mike Weber on.
Hi, Mike. How are you?
Hey, great, guys. How are you?
Good. You're a filmmaker. Were you just looking for ideas and you stumbled across this, or were you connected to this story and decided to make a film about it? You know what I mean?
Yeah, actually, it sort of found me. I've made several films for 20th Century Fox and Lionsgate, but I had never done a documentary, and I wanted to. And I had read a couple books on the subject of people who own exotic animals as pets, and it turns out they were written by that Ohio police officer. And when I read those books, I thought, well, this can't possibly be true. I mean, this guy is getting phone calls saying, I just saw a tiger run through my backyard, and they're getting emergency 911 calls. There's a cobra in my garage, and it was just unbelievable. So I met him, and he had showed me footage and everything of stuff that they had encountered, and it just blew my mind. And I thought, well, I've got to follow him around for a couple months and see if this is true. And I'm telling you, just like 2-3 months into it, I mean, we had African lions running loose. There's a man who had a 550-pound African lion that he kept in his backyard as a pet that's running loose down the highway. Cougars, bears. I mean, it was just unbelievable.
Well, the kid, or the guy rather, up outside of Cleveland, this Brumfield, he's the guy that was in the news, 6-8 months ago, where it was either a death or an attack, right? It's the same guy, isn't it?
No, a different guy, but
Different guy.
It was only just a couple months ago, and I was actually just with his family last night for the first time speaking with them. And, exactly. I mean, he was killed by a bear just a month or two ago up near Cleveland. So, I mean, these things happen all the time, and these animals are all over the place, not just in Ohio, but the film goes all over the country. But what's interesting about Ohio, just like several other states, is I have to have a dog license for my dog in order to own that dog, but I can stick an elephant or an African lion in my backyard, and there is nothing that anybody can do about it.
What's the reasoning of the people that keep pets like this? What's the mindset of somebody that keeps a bunch of animals like that in their yard?
Well, I mean, there are a few factors. I mean, one of them is that they're legal. So I think another one is they're cool. If you're the guy in the neighborhood who's got, a tiger cub, you're going to get some attention, and, people are going to think that's kind of cool, or a big venomous snake. And the other thing is they're actually, believe it or not, they're fairly cheap. I mean, if I were to tell you that I could go and get a tiger or a lion, how much do you think I would have to pay for that?
You'd think it'd be,
$1,000
right,
or something.
or more.
Thousands. A lot of people say, $30,000, $20,000. You'll see in the film that I can actually get one of those animals for free. I don't even have to pay for them. There's such a surplus of those animals here in the United States that have been bred so much that I can get them for free. I could get a dozen lions right now just for free.
Filmmaker Mike Weber is our guest, and you can see Elephant in the Room at the Drexel Theater, drexel.net, for more details. So is it, I mean, everybody has pets, you get love, you get attention, you get, there's an exchange there for, picking up their poop and putting food in their bowl and all the rest of it. Do you get more than that from an exotic animal when you've got a tiger? I mean, there was a guy in New York City that was keeping a tiger, not a cub, a full-size tiger in his apartment.
I know, it's amazing. I mean, you think, well, this does happen in some of these rural areas, but exactly. I mean, it was in the Bronx, I think.
Yeah.
And he had a tiger. He also had an alligator and I think a caiman in there too. But yeah, people. It's actually a good question. I think people do. My experience is, I shot this film. It took about 2 years, and I was with a lot of these owners and really embedded with them. And what I found is that their connection to their lion, for instance, even their snake, to their exotic, is actually even greater than our connection with our dogs or cats. And because originally I went into this and I thought, well, I get it. I love my dog. I love, the pet that I have. But it's deeper than that. And I think what it is when you have this big, majestic creature that's wild, that's not domesticated, and it kind of connects with you. Here's this big predator that would normally be out there killing a gazelle, and instead it's rubbing up against you and sort of, you feel like it's loving on you. There's a connection there, and there's something that happens that causes them just to be such a bond between them. And what they don't realize is, that thing's still going to turn on you.
Yeah, right.
I was going to say,
those people
stories,
ain't right. That ain't right.
And these stories rarely, if ever, end well.
Yeah, right. I mean, I was actually going around saying, hey, I want to see someone connect me. I want to see someone who has had a chimpanzee or a lion or something that's not just 1 or 2 years old. I want to see someone who has one that went through some sort of natural life, if you could call it that, just like our dog would, where it's 10, 12, 13 years old. I mean, I couldn't find them. I mean, nowhere. I don't know what happens to these animals. They either die. You can't get veterinary care for them. I mean, when you've got a tiger or lion, tell the vet that you're going to bring it in. You get sick or something.
And when you're
or a chimpanzee. I mean, you see that footage of that chimpanzee
wrecking that police car. Yeah.
It looks like those are usually when we think about chimpanzees and when people get them, you see the little cute Old Navy chimpanzee and they're dressed up.
Yeah.
Well, that thing turns into a 300-pound beast that's 10 times stronger than you. I mean, that looked like King Kong, didn't it?
And not happy. The 300 pounds, 10 times stronger than you, and not happy. Yeah.
And that's when you have incidences like what happened, in Connecticut, where it ripped a woman's face off, and Mo the Chimp in L.A. did the same thing. That's what they do in the wild, and eventually they're just going to do what they were programmed to do. It's like, I'm tired of eating with a fork and a spoon and drinking wine. I want to go out and be a wild animal.
Right. And they are wild animals. Giving them a name and raising them by hand and keeping them, in your house does nothing to genetically domesticate these animals, and they are wild and continue to be wild. They may be docile for a while, but they are wild and will be wild.
Well, and so is the film. I mean, it's wild. When you see it, it just blows your mind. Not only do I follow the police officer where we go on these calls, and I follow him for about a year and a half, but I also follow the other side, too. I follow a man who's raising 2 African lions in his home and that he keeps in his backyard as they get bigger as pets. And I follow him for a year and a half. And you get to see both sides, and you get to see the ups and downs. I mean, it is a roller coaster ride, and it's pretty fascinating.
What's the buzz on the film? Are you doing all the festivals and all over the country nationally, right? What's the buzz?
Yeah, it's been really good. I mean,
good.
I completed it in February, and we've had about somewhere between 15 to 20 film festival invites.
Nice.
We've won about 4 Best Documentary awards, including an award from Michael Moore at his festival up in Traverse City.
Yeah.
So, it's going really well. We're getting great reviews, and people seem to be really responding to it.
And you're going to be at the Drexel, tonight?
That's right. I'll be there tonight. There's a 7:20 screening, and so, too, will be Tim Harrison, the police officer, and we'll be there to field, Q&A, and it raises a lot of questions, and there's a lot to talk about after you see the film, and it's pretty nice. We'll be there to engage the audience.
All right. Mike Weber is the director.